Colorado, and specifically the city of Denver, are an incredible place to live. But believe it or not, there's actually a lot of reasons why people choose not to move here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 4 of those specific reasons. I'm really excited to share all of this with you on a brand new episode of Living in Denver. All right, so as I said, today's going to be all about 4 reasons why some people choose not to move here to Denver, Colorado. Before we get started though, my name is Adam. I'm a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado, born and raised in Denver. And as I love making videos just like this one you're about to watch right now, what I really enjoy is just connecting with viewers like yourself. So all that info that's down below, feel free to reach out, email, text, or call. I look forward to connecting with you. But for right now, let's go ahead and get started again, talking about 4 things that some people don't think about when considering moving here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. So jumping right into this with number 1, it's going to be the altitude. And this is something that a lot of people talk about, obviously, because it's a pretty common topic that gets brought up. But I want to talk more specifically about in Denver, we're the Mile High City. So we're at 5,280 feet. And as that might not seem like that dramatic of an elevation, it is pretty incredible how it does affect people in different ways. So obviously there's a few things that you need to keep in mind if you're moving out here, just to be very cautious and keep your body primed and ready to go where it's not going to be as affected by this altitude. And that's number 1, just staying hydrated and also just being very mindful of your diet and just being healthy overall. So, what I have found, people that have complained or had more issues with the altitude, it tends to be people that aren't taking quite as good of care of themselves. So the altitude is definitely one that, a lot of people don't really think about. They move out here and all of a sudden, just the 2-mile run that you're used to doing as a little workout after work tends to be a little bit harder. Maybe you're just not able to, climb that 3rd flight of stairs to your apartment like you were able to back in a city that maybe was coastal and closer to sea level. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this first one, but it is something that I need to bring up because it has directly affected a lot of my clients and just people that I've known over the years because of this altitude. And, that's just in Denver. If you're moving out here to Colorado, you're coming out here for a reason. You want to be close to the mountains. You really want to just enjoy everything that Denver and Colorado has to offer. It's definitely something that blows me away how few people that live in Denver ever make it past Idaho Springs on I-70. Obviously, you might not know what Idaho Springs is, but Idaho Springs is basically that first little mountain town you get to if you're going west on I-70. It's only about a 15 to 20 minute drive outside of Denver. And it's just crazy how few people ever really even get past there. So, hopefully you're not going to be in that group of people. Hopefully you're excited to adventure and just explore and see all of the great areas within Colorado that make this place so special. With a lot of those places, though, they are higher elevation. I have a cabin up in Grand Lake, and it is an area that, is significantly higher than some of the other mountain towns. And, we got to a point in my life where I'm very, very close with my grandparents, and my grandfather's no longer with us, but the last probably 5 to 7 years of his life, couldn't come up there anymore just because he was at that age in his mid-80s where it just wasn't feasible. He just couldn't even climb a flight of stairs because it was so dramatically different with that altitude and elevation gain up there. So just want to keep that in mind if you guys are considering to move out here and you might have health issues, or maybe you are really close with other people in your family that you want to have very close to you in your lives. If that might be you, just something to consider. All right, so jumping right into number 2, this is something that also gets talked about, but I'm going to talk about it with a different spin. And this is going to be just the incredible weather that we have here in Denver. So Colorado is incredible for one reason, because we have 4 very distinct seasons, and that keeps life interesting. Right now it's the end of August and we're getting ready to, go into fall, which is my favorite season out of all 4, which is such a pleasant temperature along with just a little bit quieter, not as many tourists here. And it's the most pretty, just amazing scenery that you can possibly imagine if you get up to the mountains wherever we have aspen trees. So I think that, the weather in Colorado is a plus, a huge positive in my opinion. But what a lot of people don't realize is how dramatically the weather can change just from one day to the next. And also just when we have these afternoon thunderstorms and just very severe weather that can come in unannounced and very unexpected. And if you're an outside enthusiast and you're maybe on a hike or on a mountain bike ride or just out walking your dog a couple miles from home, you're going to have a time or two where you get caught in these type of situations, and you might get wet, you might get hailed on, or whatever the weather might be. But you definitely have to just be aware that it's very unique in Denver, where we have this significant change in weather that can happen on the blink of an eye. So I want to talk to you now a little bit more specifically about a couple examples of this. So what I did is I actually just looked up a few specific dates in this current year, 2024, where we had these dramatic weather changes just from one day to the next. So the first one was back in February. In fact, it was February 16th and 17th, so just right after Valentine's Day. And we actually had a temperature drop of 55 degrees within a 24-hour time period. So in 24 hours, it actually went from a high of 67 degrees all the way down to a temperature of 12 degrees, all within just 24 hours. In February, hitting that high of 67 was very unusual. So I think why this one was so significant was because we had a pretty high temp for that time of year. But just as another example of just how great Colorado is, you always get treated with these unusual days every year where you have super warm weather in a time where normally it's not that type of temperature. Or also, though, you have times where you could have severe cold weather in a month where you're not expecting that either. I'll talk again about my cabin up in Grand Lake. We had one year, it was probably 10 years ago now, where we have an amazing 4th of July fireworks display every year that's actually shot out over the lake off this big barge that holds all the fireworks, and it shoots them off right over Grand Lake. So we have some boats, and we actually took a bunch of friends out on our pontoon boat, and we were out on the lake with the fireworks going off right above us. Just an incredible night, like always. It's one of my favorite times to be up there throughout the entire year. We had a fun big group of friends that were all with us, and it started snowing. This is the 4th of July, and it's snowing on us with fireworks going off above us. So that's just another, example of just this craziness that you can find in Colorado. And again, something that I actually really like. I think it's super cool just to have these days that make life interesting. Now, I'm also going to share one other date, and this was actually just a few weeks back. So on August 2nd of this year, we actually had an all-time high for that day. It was 102 degrees, which is significantly higher than what we're used to in August. Normally we're in like the low to mid 90s. So it's about a 10 to 15 degree above normal temperature for the day. And what was crazy about this one is just about 2 or 3 days afterwards, we had a significant drop in temperatures where we were down into I think it was like in the low 60s at night. It was just like a major swing where we went from just blazing hot temps just to literally within just 2 or 3 days, I had to grab a hoodie when I was walking my dog that day. So another just real life example recently of these temperature swings that you can find. I actually also am right now in the middle of this big insurance claim with State Farm for my roof and also my windows.
Man, why can't Patrick change his name? It could be Kelsey, and Kelsey, how much you can save by bundling home and auto.
And that's because a year ago in June of last year, 2023, we had the most insane hailstorm I have ever seen. In fact, I'll have a video up above here just so you can see what I'm talking about. It looked like World War III. I mean, it looked like the world was falling apart. I'd never seen just the amount of volume of hail all at once coming down, which was just, since I was covered inside underneath my patio, now I was enjoying it. It was just something that was just mind-blowing to not only me, but also my dog. So just another, really cool example of weather. That one wasn't quite as enjoyable because obviously it affected the roof and the windows. But on a side note, these types of things are regular occurrences nowadays, not only with fires, hail, snowstorms and blizzards. There's just literally all kinds of different reasons now why, you could have insurance claims, but also just be caught off guard with weather. So, Colorado is just one of those states where it is not your typical, Midwest or, just a place where you just have a lot more consistent temps year round. So one last thing before moving on from this weather topic, Colorado does have the claim to fame of having 300 days of sunshine a year. So if you're considering moving here, I don't know what else you need to hear that's going to motivate you to come out here and at least check it out than just those few words right there. Over 300 days of sunshine a year. That's something that a lot of people take for granted, and just makes you also understand that if you are having a cold or a gloomy day, that there's another sunny day right around the corner, and that really helps boost your spirits and just know that, as long as you're patient and give it a day or two, you'll be good. So my third point here about why a lot of people just choose not to come out here and permanently move to Denver is because of the mountain traffic jams. So, a lot of people do similar videos to what I do on YouTube and talk about pros and cons and just what they like or don't like about Denver and Colorado. And a lot of people do talk about the traffic in Denver, and that's something that has also significantly gotten worse over the last 20 years just because of the volume of people that are moving here on an annual basis. But I will say, not that many people talk about the mountain traffic jams and just how much of a pain in the butt that can be for people that are trying to get up and go skiing on the weekends, specifically mostly the weekend warriors, although it is to a point now where really any day of the week you can get caught off guard with these mountain traffic jams. I have some personal experience that I just want to share with you guys. So I actually lived up in Aspen, Colorado for 14 years. I moved back down to Denver a few years ago, so I have a ton of experience with doing this commute from Denver to the mountains. I had a business at the time for the majority of those 14 years where I had a location, a brick and mortar business in Denver and Boulder, but then also up in Aspen and Glenwood Springs. So I was on a weekly basis commuting to and from the mountains, and I got caught in obviously my fair share of these traffic jams. All 4 seasons you can deal with this. In the summertime, believe it or not, it's actually becoming as popular as the wintertime with the volume of cars. So just the number of people on the road will definitely contribute to these traffic jams. So that's mostly going to be the weekend warriors. Back in the day, it was just, Saturday and Sunday and very specific times where as long as you didn't drive up to the mountains from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and you weren't trying to come home from the mountains at, 4 to 7 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, as long as you kind of avoided those kind of specific times, you'd be okay. Nowadays, though, in the summertime, Friday from about noon on, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, you're pretty much at this point needing to account for the chance that most likely you're going to hit traffic, and what could normally be a 2-hour commute could turn into a 3-hour commute pretty easily. So this is something that happens to me now much, much more often than I would like to admit, and I think that's just how it's going to be from here on out. So there are some improvements being made. They've added an HOV lane for larger groups of people in vehicles, as well as people that want to pay for a toll pass. So there are some strategies like that are going on just to help with some of this volume of traffic. But you just really at this point just have to expect that you're going to be sitting in traffic. There are a few little back roads you can take to get past a few little sections that tend to get bogged down, but really you just need to be aware of this and expect it. For some people, they think of Colorado as this mountain paradise and a place where they're going to escape the crowds and escape that urban metropolis full of people and come out to Colorado and avoid all of that. And I hate to say it, but Colorado is becoming a very popular and just populated city, and don't expect to just come here and not have to deal with traffic. So that's an example for me just recently in the summertime, but I also just want to share with you guys the wintertime is when it can really become a nightmare. And that's because not only is it the volume of people on the road, but it's also the weather conditions. There's times where I'll share another story. The worst time I've ever had commuting was back in college when a bunch of my friends and college roommates and just really good buddies of mine, we all spent our January going up to Aspen. One of my roommates at the time was from Aspen. That's how I learned how great of a place it was. But every year in January, we have the X Games up in Aspen. This amazing 4-day event where there's all kinds of extreme sports, some really, really good just live events that are really spectator friendly. And the best part about it, it's free. So if you guys are considering coming out here and you want to look at Colorado and just Denver and all these great areas in the wintertime, this could be a great option for you. So keep that in mind. Look up X Games. It's the end of January. But we had 1 year in college where we went up there for the weekend, and we had a Subaru WRX, which is like a hatchback, pretty small vehicle. And we had it packed with 5 guys. So, our car was completely full, luggage and skis and just all this stuff in the back. This car was packed, and it took us over 12 hours to get home from Aspen to Boulder. On a typical day, no traffic, that's about a 3.5-hour commute, and it took us over 12. We had several spots we got to where the roads were closed. It was a blizzard, it was a snowstorm. They had closed different sections of passes, and as soon as they opened up one section, we'd get another, hour or two further crawling along the highway, and then something else would close. So that was a nightmare. I don't wish that upon anybody. Hopefully that never happens to me again either, but that would be the one extreme of traffic. But I'll share another little quick story. I have a sister who has special needs, and she had some amazing experiences growing up participating at the Winter Park Ski Area Disabled Ski Program. It's actually one of the best in the entire nation, definitely the best in the state of Colorado. If you guys ever have any specific questions about the Disabled Ski Program, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to share some info with you. I'll put all my info again down below. Feel free to reach out. But what happened was I had a year where I volunteered to become a coach for the Disabled Ski Program. And it was Saturday mornings. You got to be up there by 9 a.m. And then it got all wrapped up and finished about 3:30. So what I was doing, as I lived in Denver at the time, I was having to get up at 5 a.m. by myself. I didn't have anybody I was going up there with at the time. I would leave my house at 5 a.m. from downtown Denver area, Sloan Lake, and it would take me 3 hours minimum, but sometimes even a little bit longer. So I'd leave at 5, I'd get up there about 8, 8:15, maybe even 8:30 on a really bad day if there was some weather. And then I would show up, get there in time, do the training and the coaching and all that stuff. And then when the lesson wrapped up around 3 o'clock, I'd quickly grab all my stuff, head to my car, get in the car and start driving back over Berthoud Pass, which is a big pass you have to take right when you leave Winter Park to get over back to I-70. And my trip home was again anywhere from 3 hours, sometimes it was 4. So I'd leave about, 3:30 or 4 p.m. and I'd get home well after dark, usually about 8 p.m. So I was on the road in my car driving for a longer period of time than I was actually at Winter Park doing the coaching for the Disabled Ski Program. So unfortunately, 1 year, that was enough for me. I just realized this just isn't worth it for my situation with living in Denver. So I'd love the opportunity eventually to do that again. But you just have to really just be aware of the mountain traffic in the wintertime. And if possible, find a cabin, find a place to stay, get some friends together and chip in on a night or two in a condo. Just have the ability somehow to get up there and then be able to stay up there. So when you get off the mountain, you can enjoy yourself, have a few beers at the fire pit or, at one of these après ski places, and just don't have to deal with the traffic jam and this congestion that we have in the mountains coming home. So hopefully those were just a couple little stories to help you guys understand the severity of traffic jams in the mountains during certain times of the year. If you have the ability to either work from home or at least maybe flexible schedule where maybe you can work a little bit on a Saturday, but you can take a Thursday off. You have the ability to go up to the mountains on the weekdays. Your life and your quality of your experience going to the mountains will be dramatically better. All right, and last but not least, my fourth reason. This is one that I just personally deal with, so I thought I would share. And this is just the dry air. A lot of places around the country have dry air, but Colorado is at a extreme when it comes to the dryness in the air. If you're somebody that has allergies, or maybe you're just somebody that just always is dealing with chapped lips, your nose, having really dry eyes, all these types of things can be exacerbated or, even worsened if you live in a place with dry air like Colorado. So there's obviously solutions for all of this stuff, medications and just different homeopathic ways to fight the dryness. But a couple things that I'll just share with you about me personally. So one thing, when you buy a house out here, one thing to look for is if it does have an HVAC system. So if it has obviously an air conditioning or a swamp cooler, some way of cooling the house, as well as the heating, the furnace, start looking a little bit more in depth on what exactly is in the home when you're doing your inspections, and try to find homes, if possible, that have a humidification system, or you can always add this when you're either upgrading your system once it runs out of the shelf life of about 15 to 20 years. But really just making the point that if possible, a humidification system in your home will dramatically improve your life. So something to keep in mind. And also there's just some things that I do. Like I have a lot of people might be familiar with it. It's called a neti pot. I have a version of that where it's like a nasal rinse where you just have these little powdered packets. You put it in with distilled water. My dad is religious about it. He's like, you got to do this. I think he actually did it for a while. He did it once a day. I try and do it once a week. Sometimes it probably ends up being once every couple weeks, but it'll keep you from getting sick, but also just cleans out your nasal passages and really has some other ingredients that help moisturize to keep your nose from being super dry. I had a point in time where I was getting bloody noses all the time, and it was just really affecting my quality of life. So if that's something that you deal with back home where it isn't as dry as it is out here, something also to keep in mind. Before I had my LASIK eye surgery, I also dealt with that with contacts back in, middle school, high school, and even the first few years of college when I had contacts still, just how dry my eyes were always, and just constantly using eye drops and trying to figure out which ones to use. And it was just a pain and just something that I just would not want to wish upon anybody. So if you guys dealing with that kind of stuff, just keep that in mind as well when you're considering moving out here to Denver. The last thing I'll mention on the topic of the dryness in Colorado, and I didn't even really put two and two together for a long time, but if you have super dry air, that also can be a conductor for static electricity. So if you're just somebody that maybe has certain types of blankets at your house, or you're just maybe in a home that has a lot of carpeted surfaces, you might move out here and just be like, why am I getting shocked all the time? Every time I get up out of bed and go to turn on the bedroom light, I get shocked. Like, what the heck is going on? And that could also be because your air in your home is super, super dry. So another reason why humidification systems are great, or also why, like me personally, I like to avoid carpet if possible and would much prefer hardwood flooring surfaces, just so you're not dealing with that at all. Also though, if you're up in the mountains, you can really notice this on hikes. So if you're ever doing any of the 14ers are just these mountains we have out here that are over 14,000 feet of elevation. We actually have 58 of them here in Colorado, which is incredible. One of my best friends, shout out to Kyle, he actually only has 2 left, and he'll have summited all 58 of them. Hopefully we'll get to do those last 2 together here in the next year. But when you're hiking at some of these 14ers, you're obviously at a certain elevation, you're gonna be above timberline, which means you're at an altitude, an elevation where trees no longer grow. So it's all open and just above timberline. And a lot of times up there, if you ever get caught above timberline with some clouds rolling in, some maybe thunderstorms, hopefully not lightning, but definitely a reason why you always want to be off the peak. Anytime you hike a 14er, you want to be off the summit well before 2 p.m., ideally really before lunchtime. But if you ever get caught up there, I've had a few times where that static electricity is so severe that you can see your hair coming up off of your head, like literally going up like a balloon, like you rubbed a balloon on your hair, and we're doing that. I've had a couple experiences where it was like that. And again, just talking about how dry it is here and that extreme level of conductivity for that electricity. So something just to say as a side note, to be prepared and be very cautious when you're hiking, making sure you guys are down off the summit of any high altitude hikes well before you have an opportunity for the clouds to roll in and any severe thunderstorms. All right, well, there you have it. Hopefully you guys got some really good value out of these things. Obviously I like to be as positive and upbeat and optimistic as possible with all my videos, but I think it's very important also to share some of these things that you might not think about that could determine whether or not Colorado and the city of Denver are a right fit for you. So before we close out, I just want to remind you guys that I am a licensed realtor. I love making videos just like the one you watched, but I really just want to connect with you guys. I don't care if you're even considering moving at the time. Maybe you're just curious or want to learn a little bit more about Denver. I would love just to still chat with you and just hopefully provide more value in any way that I can. I've also got some great resources on my website. If you go to adamsillsdenver.com, I've actually got 4 different, very in-depth guidebooks that'll give you a ton of great info if you're considering buying a home, selling a home, maybe considering new construction homes, or if you're just trying to get into a better position when that time does come and you need to improve your credit score. I also have a great credit repair playbook. So all of those are available completely for free on my website. So I just recommend you guys check those out too. But as always, love connecting with you guys. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Living in Denver. And I can't wait to share an all new episode next week with you. New videos coming out every single Friday. Hit that like and that subscribe button so you are the first ones to get notified. And until next week, I'll see you then. Bye.